This video is going to be relatively short because I start teaching tomorrow and I have so much left to do, and my school computer decided it wasn't going to work today on our one planning day, and also it's like winter storming outside, so we may not even get tomorrow to be a regular day, so I'm just kind of mentally over it. So let's talk about audiobooks. I met my goal for reading this past year in 2021 in June, and it was solely thanks to audiobooks. I started picking up audiobooks at the end of 2020 when I was home doing some cleaning and doing work around the house, and I just haven't put them down since. And when I had to do a long commute to my internship back in the spring, it was helpful to have something to listen to consistently without skipping through like music. And I have kept it up while I work at my now like actual place of employment, because my commute is lengthened by some detours locally, so it's a good 20 to 30 minutes some mornings. And it's just nice to be able to finish a book while you're not really doing anything else. You still feel like you can be productive. But I want to talk really briefly about some of the books that I think were the best done audiobooks that I listened to this year. Not necessarily books that came out this year, but books that I listened to this year that I thought were the best. Now, my criteria for this is kind of like, do I think the story was improved by having heard it audibly? Because some of these may still be good in writing. I wouldn't know. I didn't read them on paper. Some of them I have on paper, and I might reread them. But most of them I listened to an audiobook because that was the choice I had. But I think having listened to it that way, that is going to be the better way to do it. These aren't in any particular order. If anything, they're more in order of like when I listened to it rather than which ones are best. And stay tuned to the end. I'm going to give you a recommendation of one not to listen to. So the first one I would recommend is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I think this was a fantastic audiobook. It like sets the bar for audiobooks, because if you haven't read the book before, it's almost written like a podcast where they're interviewing the members of Daisy Jones and the Six, and it is a full cast of voice actors, and it is amazingly done. It is just so immersive that you think you are legitimately listening to a documentary about this band. And I got disappointed at the end that it wasn't, and that I couldn't actually look up the information about Daisy Jones and the Six, and I couldn't listen to their music. That book made me cry. It was really good. It didn't make it into my top of the year, but I would highly recommend it. And if you were going to pick it up, I highly recommend the audiobook. The next one I would recommend is kind of an either-or toss-up. I don't know what the format of the actual written book looks like or if it does any benefits, but nothing was lost to me in having listened to it on audiobook, and that is That Way Madness Lies, which was arranged by Dahlia Adler. It's Shakespeare retellings. I've talked about this one before. It was in my top of the year. It is a really well done audiobook. And I'm not kidding, I keep harping on this one, but Kirsten White wrote an adaptation of Romeo and Juliet that has them text messaging, and somehow it didn't get confusing listening to it on audio. So I'm just saying, if you have the option to listen to it on audio, it's a good option. The next one's going to be kind of a weird one, and it might not be everybody's cup of tea, but I enjoyed it, and it is Beowulf, a new translation. It just came out last January. It is fantastic. Beowulf is notoriously hard to get through, but Beowulf is hard to get through because Beowulf is not meant to be read. It is meant to be orally heard, like around a fireplace, or in the case of a new translation, at a bar with your bros. And they're telling the story of this cool guy they once knew. It is fantastically well done. The narration is amazing, and it's a very quick read. It's only about 2 hours on like 1.5 or double speed, so you can get through it in about a day. But I loved it. I'm actually going to consider using it alongside the original text if I ever teach Beowulf. The next book I would recommend on audio is kind of in the same vein as Daisy Jones and the Six, in that it has a podcast element, so it almost sounds better listening to it, and that is The Night Swim. I thought that one was very well done. It has a modern day kind of mystery crime issue going on, and then there's a podcast element, and then there is a historical element, and it all takes place in a coastal town in North Carolina. And I thought it was really well done. I thought all the narrators did a great job, and it was super intriguing, and it was a pretty relevant topic. The next recommendation is actually two recommendations. I finished 2 Elizabeth Acevedo books, and they are Clap When You Land and The Poet X. I recommend, if you can listen to them on audiobook, listen to them on audiobook. She reads them herself, and those are poetry, so it's really nice to hear the poet reading them the way she intended them to be heard. It's not that you won't get something out of reading them on the paper. It's just hearing it is so lyrical and beautiful. It really is a nice way to experience the writing. So you might actually consider doing both at the same time, reading it in print and listening to it. The next option is also multiple books. I would recommend the entire Truly Devious series on audiobook. That is the way I listened to it and enjoyed it. And I thought the narrator did a great job, and I thought everything flowed very well. You could tell the characters apart very well. And in the first few novels, there's little like news clippings and stuff too, so you get to hear those kind of done a bit differently. But those are definitely really good audibly. The next book I would recommend listening to out loud is Firekeeper's Daughter. It involves different languages, so you can hear those better when you're listening to it on audio. And I found that was just such an enriching part of listening to that story, and it really helped you feel immersed in what was going on. The last one I would recommend is 1,000 Ships. 1,000 Ships is the story of the women of Troy after Troy is conquered. There are many different women involved in these sort of Trojan women. You have the queen, you have her daughters, Helen is there are some priestesses, and everybody sort of has their own journey to take. It even goes back and talks about Agamemnon's daughter, who, if you know about mythology, he sacrificed because they couldn't get wind to start their journey. So he killed his daughter to appease the gods and create wind, but you get her perspective of things. And I think it's just very well done. Everybody feels unique, and it is sort of framed by Penelope, who is Odysseus's wife, who waits for him. Like, it's notorious in the Odyssey, like he's taken a long time to get home, and so it's kind of punctuated by these letters to Odysseus that she's writing, and her tone gets increasingly annoyed that he's not coming. And, oh, did I hear right? Did I hear that you like stayed on an island with a witch? Like, well, what's happening here? And I just thought the tone of that one, keeping things steady, was really nice. It's some of the names don't sound quite right. I'm not really sure about the pronunciation of those, but other than that, it was good. Last but not least, I would steer away from listening to the Gilded Wolves trilogy on audiobook. The voice cast for the dialogue is great. The guy doing the dialogue does a great job of being very in character and providing a lot of emotion, but he does that by providing zero emotion for any kind of narration. Anything that's not spoken dialogue is the most monotone, dull-sounding computer voice ever. I do not understand why that was the choice that was made, but for the first book, until I got used to it, that was incredibly distracting. So if I were you, I would just avoid the Gilded Wolves series on audiobook. It's just not worth it. Just pick up the books. That's it. That's what I'm recommending. I'm going to hopefully get this video edited soon so I can send it out to you and you can see it. And then I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow and the next day. I just really don't. Hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you have some audiobooks you would recommend. If you think that maybe they are the better way to consume certain media. Anyway, bye.